Do you have an issue with snacking? If so, this is the video for you. Okay, I have 3 clients who are all doing the same 2 or 2.5 things to beat snacking. And I thought that might be kind of interesting. You can look at 3 different problems all solved by the same 2.5 skills. Client number 1 went from always snacking in the afternoon, always snacking in the afternoon at work, to almost never snacking in the afternoon. Only when a snack was needed to make a workout work, or to, like, as a bridge gap to a late dinner. 2 was doing mindless eating and sometimes emotional eating later at night after dinner, and went from doing that pretty much every night to just about never, and only when it like really fit our values. It was something to either eat with a family member or something that was like really delicious. So almost never to like clear, obvious, like for sure values-based choices. 3 was mindless eating kind of all the time. It was just kind of everywhere. And she went from mindless eating kind of all the time to basically never snacking, right? Still eating some of her favorite snacky foods, but combined with her meals. The cool thing is they were all doing the same 2 or 2.5 skills, and we're gonna dig right into those. It's kind of fun. So the first one of those 2 skills is pausing 10 minutes before snacking, and the second one was being able to sit with all of the feelings that come up when you are not eating the thing you want the very second you want it. So let's take a look at that first client. Stress eating in the afternoon. I think you can relate to that. I think everyone can relate to that. Most of my clients have pretty stressful, demanding jobs, right? And afternoon is where energy kind of dips, and maybe frustrating things have shown up by now. And that's when a lot of people stress eat. So she was stress eating in the afternoon. Pretty common. Pausing 10 minutes didn't work exactly like that because she didn't have that much time. And actually, most of my clients who are working with something like pause 10 minutes at work, they might shorten that, right? Because the 10 minutes is totally arbitrary, right? It's just we're looking to put a structural gap in between wanting and having. Like, we need to have that gap in between wanting and having. Because people, when humans do things quickly, we're dumber. we're more likely to relate to resort to our habitual responses, and then under stress, we're more likely to like narrow our choices, which again brings us back to like habitual responses. So fast and stressed, not great, right? That's not a great way to go. So so first thing we want to do is we want to slow it down, and we want to put in a gap between wanting and having, a structure where we can put in some of the higher level practices into. And so if someone's got like back-to-back meetings and things like that, and pausing 10 minutes would mean that you never have a snack, that also means you're not checking in, right? Like, if the answer is just automatically no, that's not checking in either. So for her, we were going with I think with her it was 3 minutes. I have some clients that are doing 3 minutes, some clients that are doing 5 minutes, some clients that are doing 1 minute. I think with her it was 3. And so 3-minute gap between wanting and having. And that's still a pretty long time for if you're like me, when I'm having that afternoon, like, when I'm stressed out, when I want something, when I want to use food to manage some stress, then it's like, no, right? And the 3 minutes is annoying because I almost want to eat it before I have time to like change my mind. And so that's exactly the point. That's exactly what this is for. And so we're putting in that 3-minute gap. And that 3-minute gap allowed a little space to check in. What we're checking in about is this hunger? And there's a whole host of questions we ask about to figure out, is this hunger? But one that seemed very useful in this case was, am I hungry for like a balanced meal? Or do I just want a specific treat? And if she just wanted the specific treat, that's probably not hunger. And what we found out was that it mostly wasn't hunger. It was almost never hunger. The times when it was hunger, always lunch was too small or unbalanced. So it wasn't like a which in if you're hungry you have the snack, right? What we're trying to eliminate is the non-hunger snacking, but it was also a way to tune up lunch and take those like diety meals that had gotten too small or have no carbs or whatever that was dumb about the meal and like couldn't get you to dinner, and beef up the meal, because we all self-regulate food intake much easier with meals than with snacks. Meals signal fullness much more strongly than snacks do. So if we have bigger meals and fewer snacks, most of us end up eating less total food energy, and higher quality food, and on and on and on and on. So that was a way to know us, like if lunch was the right, like if lunch was like the right balance and the right size to get her to dinner, then it was never hunger, right? So it's not hunger, and we know it's stress. Then we need to put in some skills, and this is where the second skill comes in. Second skill: sitting with the very normal human feelings that come up, right? All my clients have high stress jobs, the very demanding jobs. They tend to have a fair amount of responsibility, and some stress is going to come with that, right? That's where they ended up, right? Like they've got great lives, and they've got big jobs, and there's some stress inherent to that. And so there's some practicing just being with like the bodily sensations of that stress, and the maybe some emotions that come with that stress, and a little bit of perspective taking on the thoughts, and being able to sit with all of this stuff for a couple minutes and not have to fix it, right? Like we all have these lives that we're in, and most of my clients, when they do the values work, and they figure out who they want to be about food, they all come to some version of that they don't want to be someone that has to manage the normal everyday stress of their lives with always with food, right? They don't want to have to use food every single day to manage the stress of their job. And so there's got to be a little bit of practicing of just being with it, just sitting with all these things that are coming up, and doing a little bit of perspective, taking a little bit of distance, right? Not getting sucked up in it, right? Not getting like not dwelling in it, not wallowing in it, but actually like noting it and getting a little bit of perspective, getting a little bit of distance. Like, hey, I'm here, and I notice all the stress is here, and these are the feelings in the body, and these are the emotions that are coming up, and this is the urge to fix it, and can I be with those things for just a couple minutes in the beginning, just for practice, right? But can I be with those things long enough that I can actually make a mindful choice? And this is where the last, where I was saying like 2.5 skills, the last half skill is checking with the kind of person you want to be and like what the choice is in that moment. And sometimes it's maybe re-engaging with work, and sometimes maybe it's going for a walk, taking a little break. But there's some element of making a choice not based on all these urges or these feelings that you want to numb out, but making the choice based on the kind of person that you want to be in that kind of situation. And that takes some reflection, right? That like you actually have to like think about like, what are these situations that I end up snacking in, and who do I actually want to be in those situations, right? So again, there were times where it fit our values to snack, and there were times where it fit our values to not snack. And so usually when it fit her values to snack was when she needed a snack to make her workouts work. Most of my clients have no issue with working out, right? Like working out's not the issue. And so maybe 2 days a week, a snack made the evening workout, like the after work workout work. Cool. Or once in a while, lunch and dinner were super far apart, and so it makes sense for a snack to like be able to get to dinner, right? But most of the snacking, the stress snacking, that all got taken out. That all got taken out by pausing 3 minutes and then checking in, like what's going on. Mostly wasn't hunger, and being able to sit with what was there. So I'm going to go through clients 2 and 3 a little bit faster because they're variations on the same theme. Again, that's why I thought this would be cool, because these 3 clients all ended up doing kind of the same thing. All my clients have custom programs. They all do different things, but these 3 all finished at the same time. They all did amazing, and they all had very similar plans, even though they were solving different problems ish. So client 2 was the one that was snacking at night. And so snacking at night was showing up pretty much every night, like an hour and a half after dinner. Always, like, there was just like always food with watching TV. Like, that was just what it was. Started with pausing 10 minutes for snacking. She didn't have like meetings. She didn't have, like, there was no reason not to do the full 10 minutes. In fact, if like, we could have gone longer, right? But pausing 10 minutes really worked. We put that gap in between wanting and having. So sitting in front of the TV, like, oh, want to grab something, set a timer for 10 minutes. A lot of time the timer would go off and she'd have forgotten, right? And so that clearly wasn't hunger. But as we started to layer in the second level of skills, right, the checking in, we layered in checking in. Turned out wasn't hunger ever. Like, she always had solid dinners. It was not hunger one single time. And so then it's a matter of sitting with what's there and checking in, like, what's going on. Almost was never anything other than just like just habit, right? Just this like intense urge to eat food with TV. Right? It was always, oh, there was another values-based eating choice kind of thing where there was some reflection where it was like, oh, sometimes snacking is about eating something with the kids, right? And sometimes that's cool. Sometimes that's just cool all by itself, right? It's not about hunger. It's not about an urge it was entirely about like, oh, this is a cool bonding experience with the kids. That's great. That's awesome. Clearly values based though, and so different from watching TV and like mindlessly, like hand to mouth, like sitting at the kitchen table and like having a little snack with the kids and it being about bonding. Totally like super clear, right? These are not a hard thing to sort out the difference. And so that such a good example of clear values-based choice. Could be the same snack. This is values-based, this is not. Client number 3 was the one that was mindless eating kind of all the time, where it was just like always showing up everywhere. This made it a little bit harder to practice because like, so client 1 is like, okay, I need to practice pause 3 minutes and sitting with feelings every afternoon. Client number 2 was like, oh, I need to practice pause 10 minutes and sitting with feelings every night, right? Client number 3 is kind of like, I need to practice all the time. Kind of. We set up a goal of like practicing once a day. So like once a day, whenever the first time she noticed it came up, we would pause 10 minutes. And so that's what we did. And so we started off with pause 10 minutes, pause between wanting and having. Just putting that gap in between wanting and having actually fixed it for her about half the time. Like without even checking in, just putting in pause 10 minutes, fixed it half the time. So that was great. So at end of the first week, she was actually already pausing 10 minutes more than once a day, just because it was working so well. But then there were times where she was pausing 10 minutes and that wasn't doing it. So we added in the second skill, which I think you already know what it is. It's checking in with what's there and being able to sit with it. And so that was one of those things where it was all over the map. It was actually all over the map, right? There were times where she checked in and it was just habit. There were times where she checked in, it was just because she saw food. There were times where she checked in and there was some kind of emotion coming up. There were times where she checked in, she was tired. It was like, oh, food is like the all-purpose. It's like the answer to everything, right? And so, but she was practicing pausing 10 minutes and then seeing what was there and sitting with it. And so sometimes she was sitting with some tiredness, and sometimes she was sitting with some emotions. Sometimes she was sitting to eat the with this want to eat the delicious thing that she just saw. And what was cool was she did well over time with all of those things. Some of those things were harder than others. Some of those things were much harder than others. So there are certain things where the first couple weeks she was sitting with it and not eating a thing, and there are times she would sit with it and then still eat the thing, right? And that's okay. It was a progression over, like, we worked together for 4 months, right? This wasn't like, oh, I learned these two things and immediately everything was different, right? All of these clients, we worked together for months, and it got better over time, but they were doing essentially the same two things. And obviously there's more to it. There's a bigger system when we layered in things, but like the core things we were doing are what I'm telling you right now. And so there was a lot of pausing 10 minutes. There was a lot of sitting with it, a lot of sitting with what was going on, and then making a values-based choice. The thing that's really interesting about that was that using these skills in all these different food situations, she also started using it in non-food situations, right? There's like pausing 10 minutes before like binge watching the next show on Netflix, right? There's sitting with feelings in this other situation where there were lots of situations out in your life where you can sit with your feelings. And so the skill set became this like really broad, really generalized thing where pausing between wanting and doing and sitting with some of the discomfort of doing what matters to you became this thing that was pervasive all through her life, and really, really cool changes kind of everywhere. I stay in my lane. I stick to food. Right? I stick to, like, because we have all the eating skills. We have all the structures around food. Food's what I coach. And so teaching these skills around food is what I did, and she just applied it on her own to all these other things, right? And like making values-based choices, all these different places in her life, and so cool, so amazingly cool. I love when the things that we're doing spill out into other places, and I mean that's to be expected in a way. Everything I'm doing comes from contextual behavioral science. There are a few different frameworks that I'm borrowing from contextual behavioral science. I borrow a little bit from self-determination theory, but these skills that I'm teaching were not designed for eating behavior change. They were designed to be like transdiagnostic change tools, right? And they've been applied in the research to eating for just a little over 10 years now, right? So we've got 10 years worth of research specifically about food, but we've got like 40 years worth of research on a zillion different things. So if you wanted to take the tools and apply them to other things, you totally can. And I think that's amazing. And that's actually what I love most about this is that these are things that people can take out into their lives and make a difference in their lives. But I stick to eating. That's my lane. So we work on these skills in eating, and then you take them wherever you want, right? Okay, so you're watching this and you're like, hey Josh, where do I start? Okay, you've got these two skills. Where do I start? This all sounds great. You start with pause 10 minutes. Pause 10 minutes. Pause 10 minutes. You start with pausing 10 minutes. Okay, start with pausing 10 minutes. Like of all the things that I teach, almost everything comes from research into specific eating behaviors or contextual behavioral science. Pausing 10 minutes is the only thing that I came up with on my own. Even in the world of like urge surfing, they usually do 20 minutes or 15 minutes because that's when you get full. But I don't even care about when you get full. Or they do 20 minutes because they're like, in 20 minutes the urge will pass. But I don't even care about the urge passing. I just want you to have a gap in between wanting and having. In that gap, you can make a more mindful choice. We all need to slow down. We all need to freaking slow down. If you've ever read Thinking Fast and Slow, we want to start thinking slow. And if there's a lacking in most programs that teach habit-based eating or hunger and fullness eating or mindful eating or intuitive eating, or most of them don't have a structured gap in between wanting and having. And so I'm like, hey, what if we put in a structured gap, and what if we tracked that? And so I thought 10 minutes was a good round number. Like I said, I have downscaled, upscaled it for different clients, but pause 10 minutes is kind of like it works for most people. So start with pausing 10 minutes. And then in that 10 minutes, in at least the very beginning of that 10 minutes, start checking in. What's going on? What's going on here? Right? Emotions, thoughts, what do I feel in my body? Like what's going on? What are the things that are going on? Zoom out. What just happened? What just happened, right? Like zoom out. Like, did my boss just yell at me? Do I have a big project that I'm worried about? Do I or zoom out, like, am I tired today? Or zoom out, like, is this just a habit? Have I like stopped choosing this? Have I done this so many days in a row that there's no choice, that I'm not in the driver's seat, that it's just a habit? Let's see if you can spend a little time. Spend a little time sitting with that discomfort. Spend a little time sitting in that. And then, over time, you can layer in more skills for doing some perspective taking with that and different ways of being with it. But in the beginning, just like what's going on, just like check in with what's going on. So those are two things. Number one, pause 10 minutes. Pause 10 minutes. Pause 10 minutes. Number two, check in with what's going on. What's going on inside you? Zoom out a little bit. What's going on in the situation? What's going on? Slow your thinking down. The thing about stress is that it narrows our focus, right? And so if there's any stress eating going on, you have to slow down to broaden your choices back out again. And with habitual eating, it's just fast. Slow down, broaden your choices, right? If it's mindless eating, slow down and add in a little bit of mindfulness. This is what we do. Try that out. I think you'll like it. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Let me know in the comments if you try it out and it works for you. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. If you got some value out of this, like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I'm starting to YouTube again. And also, I've got a coaching program called Eating Behavior Mastery. And so if you're, at least that's the current iteration, if you're looking for a coach, that's the thing I do. I've got limited spots because it's very one-on-one, as you might have noticed from this video. But I might have spots, and if not, get on the waiting list.